Ancient history teaches us that monumental events often hide subtle complexities. The Soviet Union, once a vast superpower stretching across continents, emerged from revolutionary fervor and industrial ambition. Its inception brought together diverse peoples under a singular, ambitious dream. In the early years, unity and promise resonated among the republics as they forged a collective identity, fueled by ideological zeal and a commitment to progress. However, beneath the grand narratives of triumph, underlying tensions began to surface. Subtle economic strains, bureaucratic inefficiencies, and cultural disparities whispered of an uncertain future. This initial chapter sets the stage for a remarkable tale of a union that once aspired to greatness but was slowly undermined by internal contradictions and unforeseen challenges and mounting uncertainty. As the Soviet system expanded, ambitious projects and centralized planning painted a picture of relentless progress. Factories churned out goods in massive numbers, while research and technology advanced under state guidance. Yet, amid this industrial surge, inefficiencies and rigid hierarchies began to stifle innovation. Local leaders struggled with bureaucratic red tape, and citizens experienced a growing disconnect between state promises and everyday realities. The immense scale of the economy, once lauded as the fourth largest in the world by GDP, concealed mounting challenges beneath its surface. Social welfare programs faltered, and the gap between central policy and local conditions widened. As these pressures accumulated, dissent grew quietly among the people, signaling an imminent system breakdown. Whispers of dissent began to circulate as newly independent voices emerged from within the Union. Several republics boldly declared their autonomy even before the official dissolution decree was signed by the leadership. This surprising act of defiance shattered the illusion of unyielding control and forced central authorities to confront a rapidly changing reality. Rumors spread about secret meetings and covert negotiations among regional leaders, plotting their future course. The fragile cohesion that once held the Union together started to crumble as long-standing loyalties were questioned and new alliances formed. Meanwhile, the public grew increasingly aware of the widening gap between official pronouncements and the ground-level experiences of everyday citizens, revealing inevitable internal collapse. Amid mounting crises, the Soviet leadership faced relentless pressure from all sides. Economic stagnation and political rigidity collided with rising nationalist sentiments in numerous republics. Central planners struggled to maintain control as shortages, corruption, and inefficiency plagued everyday life. Public protests grew louder, echoing the frustration of millions who had grown disillusioned with promises of prosperity. The regime's attempts at reform were hampered by internal resistance and bureaucratic inertia. As whispers of independence turned into bold declarations, the once unified front began to splinter irreparably. In this turbulent climate, leaders on all levels were forced to reckon with the reality that the old order was crumbling. Each decision and misstep further fanned the flames of dissent, intensifying the tension that gripped the vast empire and heralded the approach of irreversible change as every passing moment edged ever closer to inevitable collapse. In the midst of severe political turmoil, unexpected moments of humor began to emerge among the people. A street performer in a bustling market corner used satire to mimic bureaucrats and pompous officials, eliciting genuine laughter from skeptical onlookers. His exaggerated gestures and witty imitations provided a brief escape from the constant pressure and uncertainty of daily life. Ordinary citizens found solace in these spontaneous acts of comedy, which seemed to momentarily dissolve the oppressive atmosphere. Jokes circulated quickly, and even those who bore the brunt of economic hardships allowed themselves a smile at the absurdity of the situation. This infusion of humor, though fleeting, united people and reminded them that even in a system on the brink of collapse, laughter could be a quiet form of resistance and hope, bringing a much-needed spark of pure, radiant light amid despair. After brief moments of levity, the focus shifted back to the formidable challenges facing the Soviet Union. The once mighty Union, despite its grand achievements, now grappled with an array of internal and external pressures. Economic stagnation, political rigidity, and rising nationalism among diverse republics all contributed to an atmosphere of uncertainty. Leaders attempted reforms, yet the bureaucratic system proved too entrenched to adapt swiftly. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens experienced a widening gap between state promises and daily realities. Public disillusionment grew as resources dwindled and corruption deepened. The return to stark realities reminded everyone that the dazzling facade of Soviet power was crumbling from within, and that the underlying systemic problems were more complex than they appeared, casting a long, ominous shadow over the uncertain future of this union. As internal fractures deepened, a palpable sense of forewarning began to pervade the union. Rumors swirled among regional leaders and ordinary citizens alike, hinting that monumental changes were on the horizon. In hushed conversations, in dimly lit cafes and crowded communal spaces, whispers of independence and early declarations emerged. The growing discontent was accompanied by subtle maneuvers at the highest levels of government as officials scrambled to contain emerging separatist movements. The idea that some republics might break away before any official decree was even signed fueled both hope and anxiety. These murmurings of a premature disintegration underscored the fragile nature of the Soviet structure. Each subtle gesture and covert meeting added to the mounting tension, casting overwhelming, undeniable doubt and setting anxious hearts racing with anticipation. Then a staggering revelation burst into view. Several republics had declared independence even before Gorbachev signed the official decree dissolving the Union. This audacious move, defying the centralized authority, sent shockwaves through the corridors of power and ignited a cascade of unexpected political maneuvers. The premature declarations underscored the deep-seated desire for self-determination and the fragility of a system built on forced unity. As news of these unilateral actions spread rapidly, both citizens and officials grappled with disbelief and apprehension. The startling fact not only exposed the cracks in the Union's structure, but also challenged the very narrative of inevitable collapse. It was a clear sign that the disintegration had begun well before the formal end was ever proclaimed, shaking the foundation of centralized control, marking a turning point that would accelerate the disintegration of the once mighty state. In the midst of political chaos, ironic humor found its way into everyday life. In a small-town meeting, local citizens joked about the absurdity of declarations and bureaucratic confusion, laughing at the irony of a system that proclaimed unity while unraveling at its seams. Quips about premature independence and the peculiar timing of official orders circulated among the crowd. A witty commentator remarked that even the clocks seemed confused by the rapid changes, as if time itself was losing track of official decrees. The light-hearted banter provided a welcome respite from the weight of political uncertainty. This shared laughter, though brief, underscored the resilience of people who managed to find humor in the midst of impending disarray and systemic collapse. Their ever-jovial spirit remarkably turned a grim reality into one brief, cherished moment of communal relief and defiant optimism. Unexpected political maneuvers began to reshape the internal landscape of the Union. Hardline officials, once seemingly implacable, scrambled to revise policies and reassert control. New alliances formed in the corridors of power as competing interests sought to capitalize on the emerging disintegration. Economic indicators, once a source of pride with the USSR ranking fourth in global GDP, started to falter amid rampant inefficiency and mismanagement. A surge of reform proposals met resistance from entrenched bureaucrats, while public discontent grew louder. As the fabric of the Union unraveled, radical ideas and alternative visions gained momentum, challenging long-held orthodoxies. This twist in the narrative underscored the unpredictable nature of collapse, revealing that even established structures could not withstand the forces of change. With every unfolding event, the tension within the Soviet system grew more palpable. Rumors of imminent collapse spread like wildfire through urban centers and remote regions alike. High-ranking officials became increasingly desperate, attempting to salvage a crumbling order through last-minute reforms and public spectacles. Meanwhile, citizens clung to any sign of hope, their daily lives marked by uncertainty and whispered conversations. The once mighty apparatus of state control faltered as corruption and inefficiency undermined its authority. Political maneuvering intensified, and alliances shifted unpredictably. In hushed tones and discreet meetings, insiders revealed troubling forecasts that hinted at the Union's ultimate demise. Every action and decision now carried the weight of history, setting the stage for a dramatic, irreversible turning point that promised to reshape the future. The air thickened with mounting anticipation as destiny steadily moved inexorably towards its final, fateful moment. As the inevitable climax approached, the entire system shuddered under the weight of accumulated contradictions. Every policy misstep and internal fracture contributed to an atmosphere charged with impending doom. The centralized machinery of control began to falter visibly, and long-suppressed grievances erupted into overt challenges. Public protests merged with secret dissent, and even loyal party members could no longer ignore the mounting pressure. The grandeur of past achievements clashed painfully with the reality of bureaucratic decay and economic stagnation. In this critical moment, every decision and every act of defiance carried monumental significance. The Union, once the embodiment of collective power, now teetered precariously on the brink of collapse as the echoes of discontent grew louder with each passing day. Every heartbeat of the nation resounded powerfully with the fear and unwavering determination to either rebuild or be forever lost. In a moment that defied the bleakness of the crisis, a group of friends in a provincial town shared an unexpected bout of laughter. Over cups of strong tea in a modest cafe, they exchanged witty remarks about the absurdity of state decrees and bureaucratic mishaps. Their humor was both a coping mechanism and a subtle critique of a system that had grown fatally out of touch with reality. Jokes about premature independence and the peculiar timing of official orders sparked mirth among them, uniting them in a brief, shared rebellion against despair. Even as the weight of impending collapse loomed large, these humorous interludes offered a refreshing reminder that human resilience often finds expression in laughter, defying the oppressive gloom of political decay. Their laughter echoed as a powerful, defiant, unyielding chorus against the unstoppable, inevitable march of despair. All elements converged as the final approach of dissolution drew near. The political, economic, and social tensions, once simmering beneath the surface, now erupted in a torrent of irreparable conflict. Every announcement, every reform attempt was met with fierce opposition and deep-seated skepticism. The remaining vestiges of the old system struggled desperately to cling to power, even as emerging forces demanded radical change. The state machinery, burdened by decades of inefficiency and corruption, faltered under the relentless pressure. In this charged atmosphere, the very fabric of the Union trembled, with every sector showing signs of irreversible decay. History itself seemed to hold its breath as the inevitable collapse loomed, leaving all observers to wonder if any remnant of the once mighty Union could survive the coming storm. Every heart raced as the realization struck. The end was near and change inevitable. In a final, jarring moment that defied all expectations, the hidden truth emerged. Some Soviet republics had declared independence, even before Gorbachev officially signed the decree dissolving the Union. This startling fact, a symbol of the crumbling empire's internal chaos, revealed the profound disconnect between centralized power and the will of the people. As the final pieces of the Union fell away, the once mighty Soviet machine was exposed as a fragile construct built on unsustainable promises and systemic inefficiencies. The revelation not only shattered the illusion of unity, but also underscored the rapid, irreversible collapse of a superpower that had once ranked fourth in global GDP. In that abrupt moment, the empire's fate was sealed, leaving no room for reconciliation or recovery, and the final harsh reality decisively cut through all illusions, marking an end that was sudden, uncompromising, and irrevocable.